All right, troops, happy Friday to the lot of you. Hope you're all keeping well. Let's get stuck in it. As much as I'll usually say we've got a load of transfer chat, truth is it's gone a wee bit quiet this week. No as much buzzing around as we've had lately, but that does not mean we've nothing to talk about. Quite the opposite, in fact. Loads of you have been reacting to the chat we had yesterday about Shanya Mada, so I'll dive into that again, go a wee bit deeper, and also take a look at what the striker plan might be at Celtic. Plus, we've got a wee look ahead to tomorrow's game in Lisbon against Estrela da Amadora. Right, let's go. So first up, shout out to all boy you're watching the vids lately. Numbers have been brilliant. Loads of folk tuning in every day, and I'm no daft. I ken it's mostly down to Celtic being active and transfer rumors flying about. But still, cheers for sticking around. And we're creeping up to 16,000 subscribers, which is mad. Honestly, if you're watching this and you've no click subscribe yet, what are you then nearly half of you watching are no subscribed? That's wild. Hit the button, it's free, and you can be part of the madness when we lift the preseason treble, then charge for another one in the season proper. Sound good? Course it does. Right now, yesterday, I did say I wouldn't mention Isaac Jansen again. Aye, that was a lie. Here we are. He's now officially a nice player. They didn't waste any time announcing it, got it out right away. So that's that. Another one who slipped through the net, maybe no, time will tell. But it's not like there's a flurry of activity elsewhere. We've had the usual tabloid chatter. Interest in Giuseppe Ambrosino from Napoli a wee bit on David Strelec speaking out about Celtic interest. But honestly, most of it's just noise. Nothing really solid to bite on aside Shanya Mada. So Shanya Mada, still the only one who feels close. We went through it yesterday, but just to recap, he's away with Japan, the now playing in a tournament for players based in the J League. Once that wraps up, which should be mid next week, he's expected to fly to Glasgow and might even be unveiled by the weekend. That's the timeline as it stands. Now here's the thing. The reaction from the fans has been mixed, they say the least. Plenty of folk no too chuffed about the idea of Yamada coming in. And I get it. It's a bit of a head scratcher. His last season in Japan, decent enough. Scored a few. But this current season, bit of a horror show goal-wise. So there's this huge contrast. Hard to know which version of the lad we're getting. And when you're signing a striker, you want some clarity. Either he scores goals or he does nay. He's spoken himself, to be fair. Said he's no happy with how he's been performing. Mentioned there's been a managerial change at Kawasaki Frontale, different style of play, which might explain things a bit. But again, it leaves us guessing. We've no seen him in the hoops yet. We've no idea how he'll fit in. So rather than jumping the gun and bashing the guy before he's kicked the ball for us, I think the bigger question is, what's the plan? Like seriously, what's the actual striker plan here? Is Yamada meant to be the main man, the long-term Kyogo replacement? Are we going into the season with Yamada and Ida as the 1-2 up front, and then we Callum as third choice? If that's the shape of things, I can understand why folk are feeling a bit underwhelmed. Not even trying to be negative here. It's just honest. We've had links to some cracking strikers lately. Mads Christian Gitzel scorched the net in Denmark. Strelec as well. Done a job at Slovan Bratislava. Then we end up with Yamada, who's struggling for goals. It's natural that folk are going wait with. And there's that gut feeling, and I'm not the only one, that Yamada just is not a guy. Just instinct. Could be totally wrong, and I'd love to be. But gut says no. Especially when you think about Ambrosino again, no exactly prolific himself, but he's got pedigree. Napoli, Italy, under 21's great free kick in the Euros this summer. That feels like the kind of project worth taking on. Yamada, by comparison, feels like more of a gamble. Early in the week, we heard the plan might be to sign both. Now, if that happens, that's a different story. You've got 5 strikers, then Yamada, Ida, Ambrosino, Calamo, and Johnny Kenny. Kenny, I guess, goes out on loan again. Callum seems set to stay. Feels like Brendan sees him as the third option. And Ida's already here, obviously. So if Ambrosino and Yamada both arrive suddenly, you've got options. And that feels a lot healthier. But if it's just Yamada, I can see why the alarm bells are ringing for some. And then there's this whole wider issue. What's the club actually trying to do in the market this summer? There's clearly 2 strategies at play. On the one hand, you've got your first team upgrades, the guys who are meant to come in and start. And then on the other hand, there's this growing group of what I'd call speculative punts. The likes of Nakamura, Osman, Low fee signings, low risk, maybe high reward down the line. And it's known like that's a bad idea. You need a balance. But when there's no clear communication for the club, it just leads to confusion. Would it really kill someone? Tisdale maybe. They come out and say, here's what we're trying to do. These signings are for now, these are for the future. It'd go a long way. Otherwise, folk are left filling in the blanks, and that leads to frustration. Look, I'm no downbeat about the window so far. I actually think we've made some sensible moves. But the first team still needs reinforcements. We've lost serious quality with Jota Mui and Hattadi leaving. That's 3 starters going from a title-winning side. We can't just paper over that. Need real quality coming in and soon. Hopefully Brendan gives us a bit of clarity after tomorrow's game. He usually speaks to the press after matches, and with the squad away in Portugal, this would be a good time for an update. Speaking of Portugal, let's talk Lisbon. The team's out there training at Cidade do Futebol, this beautiful complex run by the Portuguese FA. And here's the magic. It's right next door to the Estadio Nacional. That Estadio Nacional. The place where the Lisbon Lions made history in '67. You can literally see it from the training pitch. Gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Honestly, I wish the club made more of this. I clocked it in the background of some footage and thought, surely this is a deliberate choice? Training in the shadow of our greatest ever triumph. It's symbolic. I just hope the squad takes a wee walk over there, even just a minute to soak it in. Especially poignant right now after John Clark's passing. Would be a nice touch. Right, let me tell you who made the trip. I spent way too long pausing. That Lisbon Unfiltered video tape write down every name I could spot. So in goal, we've got Kasper Schmeichel, Veli Sinisalo, and Ross Doohan. Defense looks like Anthony Ralston, Liam Scales, Austin Trusty, Hayato Amamura, Kieran Tierney, Dane Murray, and Adam Montgomery. Midfield options are Callum McGregor, Rio Hattadi, Ara Engels, Benjamin Nygren, Luke McCowan, and Ben Summers. Up front, we've got Dazen Maida, Ida James Forrest, Callum, Osman Johnny Kenny Hyunjin Yang, and Marco Tilio. Also clocked some B-team lads who've been called up. Josh Clark Colby, Donovan Ben McPherson, Kyle Ewer, Sean McCauley, and Samuel Ezeagwu. Not all the young lads made it, which probably means Brendan's been impressed by this bunch. And who's know they're Cardiffers? Might still be training back home at Lennoxtown. Alistair Johnston, Paulo Bernardo, and Luis Palma also missed out. Makes sense they were all playing summer tournaments. They'll probably join up later, but don't expect them to feature tomorrow. Same with Stephen Welsh, who picked up an injury midweek. Tomorrow's game is against Estrela da Amadora. Portuguese top-flight team finished 15th last season, so just dodged relegation. Game's at 11 in the morning local time, same time back in Glasgow. Closed doors match at the Benfica Academy, but it's gonna be streamed on Celtic TV. Credit where it's due. Usually these games are ghosts. Remember when we played Rennes behind closed doors and had to rely on some random French reporters' tweets? Anyway, tomorrow we'll get a look at a load of faces for the first time this season. Tierney Nygren, Maida Hatate, Ida Schmeichel, Ralston Yang, Tilio. Probably 2 different 11s each half as Brendan likes to do in these games. Should be fun. And that's also my birthday weekend, so who knows if I'll actually see it live. We'll see. Now there's one other thing I want to get into before we wrap things up. And that's this wee news story that's been bubbling away in the background. You might have heard about it already, but just in case, let me bring it to the front. This pilot scheme that's been launched across Scottish football this weekend. It's about alcohol being allowed again in some matches. And before anybody jumps the gun, no, this doesn't mean folk are going to be sinking pints on the terraces anytime soon. 7 clubs are involved. Teams like Arbroath, Ayr, United Queen of the South Stirling Albion, and a couple more. They're part of a wee experiment where for the League Cup fixtures this summer, they'll allow a limited number of home fans to drink alcohol in designated areas. No away fans, no drinking in the stands, and definitely nothing where you can see the pitch. That's still banned. But this is something different. This is the first crack in the door, so to speak. Now look, the government's already made it clear they've no plans to lift the overall ban. They've said that again just this week. But if this wee trial works, who knows? Maybe we start moving towards something a bit more sensible. And here's my 2 cents. I think the ban's daft. It's outdated. I'm no saying we should be letting folk drink in the stands at Celtic Park or Ibrox straight away. Course not. But surely there's a middle ground. Like imagine Celtic playing Falkirk at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Folk want a pint. What's the issue? It's not about promoting madness. It's about treating folk like adults. I've been to games in Australia where you can drink in your seat. Same in Germany, same in plenty of places. And now I know what you're thinking. Scotland's drinking culture is different. And it is. No point pretending otherwise. There's more edge here, more aggression, sometimes more folk who maybe go too far. But here's the irony. The current ban actually encourages dafter behavior. Folk end up tanking it before the game, getting absolutely blooted in the pub or car park, then stumbling into the ground, already half gone. And you get people sneaking drinking anyway. Hit flasks, bottles down the sock, that sort of thing. So it's no like the ban has actually stopped the drink. If anything, it's made it worse. And again, I'm no saying throw the gates open, but phase change trial it in lower league matches, maybe cup ties. Create safe areas, maybe test. Aid in hospitality and then gradually expand. Use common sense. But instead, we're stuck with this blanket ban fare the early 80s put in place after one incident. And that was nearly half a century ago. It just feels like we're miles behind the rest of the world on this one. I mean, you can drink at rugby, you can drink at the darts, at concerts, at almost every other sport in the country. And yet somehow we still pretend Scottish football fans can handle it. It's pure nonsense. I actually think for the majority of fans, having a pint during the game would chill things out, no ramp them up. But anyway, we'll see what comes of this pilot. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully it opens some doors. Because honestly, the whole thing feels stuck in the past. Right, let's bring it back to the football. Back to Lisbon, where the Hoops are training hard in the summer sun. We already touched on the fact they're based at Cidade do Futebol. But I want to go back to that again for a second, because there's something genuinely special about it. That place is right next to the Estadio Nacional. We're talking maybe 100, 150 yards max. The most iconic stadium in Celtic's history, where the Lisbon Lions conquered Europe back in 1967. Now picture, this the current squad busting their guts in pre-season, literally training in the shadow of that legendary ground. It's poetic, right? And maybe it means more to fans like me and you than to the players themselves. Fair enough, but still, imagine being in that environment. The weight of history, the pride, the standards, surely that seeps in. And here's the thing, I'm a wee bit surprised the club haven't leaned into this more. Like, this is a marketer's dream, a full circle moment. You'd think they'd have a camera crew down there filming the squad walking through the said old stadium, reflecting on what it means. Even just a social post, something simple. But no, it was barely mentioned, tucked away in a line on the official site. Now I did hear that the players might take a wee walk over, maybe just to feel the atmosphere taking the scenery, especially now after John Clark passed away. One of the originals, one of the Lions. There's no better time to connect the present with the past. I'd love to see it. Even if the players didn't feel it the same way, even if they didn't. Can every bit of history just be in there breathing that same air? It matters. Oh, and on top of all that, we even got a wee cameo from Joda this week. Dropped by Tacey the Lads. Now that warmed my heart, it really did. We talked earlier in the week about how that might happen, and it did. Love seeing stuff like that. Shows the bond's still there. Hopefully it's no too long before we see him back in full training. Now I know what you're asking. Who actually made the trip to Portugal, who's training? Well, lucky for you, I watched the Lisbon video on Celtic TV about 20 times, pausing every frame and scribbling down names. Aye, I'm that sad. So here goes. In goal, we've got Kasper Schmeichel, Sinisalo, and Ross Doohan. Defenders include Anthony Ralston, Liam Scales, Austin Trusty, Hayato, Amamura, Kieran Tierney, Dane Murray, and Adam Montgomery. Midfielders are Callum McGregor, Rayo Hatate, Ara Engels, Benjamin Nygren, Luke McCowan, and Ben Summers. Up top, we've got Dazen Maida, Ida James Forrest, Callum, Osman, Johnny Kenny, Hyunjun Yang, and Marco Tilio. Now the B team lads that were there managed to spot Josh Clark, Kobe, Donovan, Ben McPherson, Kyle Ure, Sean McCauley, and Samuel Ezeogwu. No, every young player made it so clearly Brendan's had his eye on the ones who impressed most in the early sessions. And then we've got the absentees. Cameron Carter-Vickers might still be back at Lennoxtown recovering. Alistair Johnston, Paulo Bernardo, and Lewis Palmer all had international duty in the summer, so probably resting up a bit longer. Should link up soon, but didn't expect them to play this weekend. Stephen Welsh, also missing, picked up a knock on Tuesday. And strangely enough, Hyokyu Kwon nowhere to be seen either. So the squad's a wee bit mix and match the now, but there's still loads to be excited about. And tomorrow we take on Estrela da Amadora, Portuguese top flight side. Finished 15th last season, just escaped the drop. No, the biggest test we'll face, but a good run out. Game kicks off at 11 in the morning, both in Lisbon and in Glasgow. No time difference. Closed doors at the Benfica Academy, and here's the good news, it's being broadcast on Celtic TV. Now I'll be honest, I've no idea what the quality is going to be like. Sounds like we basically begged Benfica to stick up a camera, but still we'll take it. Better than nothing. Normally these matches are totally hidden fate of fans. Remember that Portents match a while back, or the Rennes game after the World Cup had to rely on dodgy match reports from journalists who snuck in. So I credit the club for sorting this one out. We're expecting to see a pretty full rotation as well. Brendan's hinted that everyone will get minutes. Probably. 2 different teams, one each half. So this will be the first chance to see lads like Tierney Negren, Maida Hatare, Ida Schmeichel, Ralston Yang, and Tilio in action this pre-season. Should be decent. We'll get a glimpse of what shape they're in, how sharp they look, and maybe a few clues as to what Brendan's thinking system-wise. So that's the state of play right now. The season's creeping up, the transfer market's still simmering, the squad's gearing up in the Portuguese heat, and tomorrow's match feels like the real start. And would you believe it, it's my birthday weekend as well. So who knows if I'll even manage to watch the game live. There'll be no video tomorrow morning, and maybe not even early Sunday either, depending how messy things get. But we'll see. I might squeeze in a live one if I've got time, or maybe I'll take the weekend off. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a rumor doing the rounds in Scottish football circles that could raise a few eyebrows and possibly a few pints. In pubs from Glasgow to Lanarkshire, the whispers are getting louder. Lennon Miller, the teenage sensation who recently bid farewell to Fir Park, might just be on his way to Celtic Park, poised to become the new heart of the Hoops midfield. At just 17, Miller had already cemented himself as one of the brightest prospects in Scottish football during his time at Motherwell. A composed presence in the middle of the park with a maturity well beyond his years and a passing range that echoes the greats. It's no wonder the bigger fish have started to circle. And while nothing is official yet, several sources close to the player suggest the green and white Hoops may soon have a new engine in the middle. The timing couldn't be more interesting. Celtic, under growing pressure to reassert domestic dominance and make a proper impact in Europe, have been quietly searching for a dynamic young midfielder to carry the torch left by legends past. Some say Miller fits the bill perfectly. Young, fearless, and Scottish to the bone. His departure from Motherwell, confirmed earlier this week, only adds fuel to the speculation fire. Some fans are already drawing comparisons to a young Callum McGregor, while others caution against putting too much weight on the shoulders of a lad who's barely left school. Still, the buzz is undeniable. Could Lennon Miller be the next big piece in Celtic's puzzle? No official word from Parkhead. Yeah, but as the saying goes, there's rarely smoke without fire. And if these murmurs are to be believed, the boys could be welcoming a fresh heartbeat to their midfield. One born just down the road and ready to make some serious noise. Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.